Hey Miro.
Hi, Gabi.
Hi.
Good.
I'm happy. I'm happy we use the opportunity to introduce ourselves. To introduce
Absolutely.
ourselves to the Yippie community a bit. So basically, I
Exactly.
know you and we got to know ech other already, but
Exactly. We know each other a little bit, but probably we don't know everything, and we definitely didn't prepare all questions and answers, especially
mhm.
for today. So hopefully it will be something new also for both of us
Okay.
and our colleagues anyway. So if I could start right away, I would just like
Okay.
ask the very first question, a broad question, and
Okay.
same time a very simple one. Who are you, Gabi?
That's a very open question indeed. Um, I am a human being. I am empathic, and other people describe me as very creative, and that I have, in German, you would call it a lange Atem, meaning, yeah, I don't stop things until they are finished, and I have lots of energy.
Perfect. That sounds really intriguing and exciting. Do you see that this is somehow connected to positive psychology, positive mindset, or were you always like this, or did you develop some of these qualities after you made your adventure with positive psychology, an important thing in your life?
Mm-hmm. Um, also an interesting question, which I need to reflect. I think I always had the qualities. But when people describe me like this, I obviously show those qualities, which probably has not always been the case in the past. So I'm a strong believer of strength, that we have a strength within us as soon as we are born. And yes, it has a connection to positive psychology, as when I got to know this science, I learned how to develop, how to look and
Mhm.
focus more on what I always felt, that I'm doing good and which is doing good to me.
Perfect. And how actually did you find positive psychology for yourself?
I found it interestingly in an English course, business English course we were offered in a company.
Oh, interesting.
And our management decided so that everyone has to run through an English course because we wanted to buy another company in Slovakia.
Mhm.
And my boss and I were going into one class, and we were reading an article about happiness in companies. We were reading lots of articles, boring articles, but one of them was talking about happiness in companies, corporate
Mhm.
happiness. And I thought, wow, what's this?
Very interesting.
Yeah, and then I started to show more interest and go into educations and courses, reading a lot, because I was fascinated
Did
that
it,
the
did it even
focus can
change
be,
your, like, let's say, professional career that put the different weights on
yes,
what you're
yes.
doing now, comparing to the version of Gabi from before the time you
Yes,
discovered?
yes, I would say it broadened my repertoire because I was
Mhm.
internal trainer. I was
Mhm.
training colleagues, leading people. So, and I thought, wow, I want to enrich my trainings with this personal component.
And you do, I understand.
And I do until now.
Perfect. And one more question,
Okay.
Gabi. Do you use the power and beauty of positive psychology, if I may say so, only in your professional life, or do you also find space for using these qualities and this philosophy or approach or attitude in your personal life?
Mm-hmm. I do. Um, because life is always, it's not just profession. It's always also private, of course. And positive psychology helped me, interestingly, in my professional life to be more private. Not sure if
Hmm,
this, if you understand, but I think it's called authenticness.
okay.
Yeah. So you don't give your personality as soon as you enter the building. and you leave it at home, but you take it with you.
Okay.
And in private life and in business, I do, for example, for me, thankfulness is a very big topic. So
How do you do it exactly? Like, do you remember it and make an effort to do like every day an act of thankfulness, or how you do it exactly? Maybe it might be a great inspiration for our.
What I do is a gratitude journal. I'm journaling. So in the evening, 3 blessings, looking back, but focusing on the things I'm grateful for, which is in my case always what has been good for me, what went well, which nice relationships, which new connections did I make this day. So basically parts of the PERMA model as well. And this helps me going through the day with a lot of attention. Yeah, so it trains my attention. And I'm doing a gratitude journal. Maybe this is an interesting tip for our community. I have 2, for business and a private one.
Great. And you fill it in every day?
No. From the beginning, I planned not to force myself, but whenever I encounter something that is worth writing, or I do it. So that is one tip. Don't force yourself to lead a journal.
Okay. And then and the personal one you fill in every day, or also like when you feel the need for
Also
it?
like when I feel the need, when I find a
Which is how
coin on
many
the
times a week,
ground.
more or less, if I may ask? Is there like a...
It's about it. The quantity raises because with regards to attention, attention goes where energy flows. As the more attentive you are, the more things you collect, I would say, over the day.
Absolutely.
Which is a very good training, and it makes a lot of positive emotions.
Great example. Thanks for sharing this,
Yeah,
Gabi.
very welcome.
Also
So
for
how?
me an inspiration. I do a lot of these similar things, but I didn't write it down so formally and regularly. Maybe I can try as well.
The business one, just if I may add, the business one is it contains a lots of emails that I got. So I print out emails in business context where people tell me something personal. Where they say, Gabi, thank you for your training. You really inspired me. Or after 4 or 6 weeks sickness leave that I had an operation 2018. When I returned after 6 weeks, which is kind of a long time absence, so many people welcomed me back with really words that told me, oh, wow, I was missed. And it's like, and I print it out, and it's a small sheet of paper, and I glue it into my book. So that's maybe another easy way to...
Very practical, very natural, very authentic, in the sense that you use really things that happen, and also based your thankfulness records on the feedback and input of other people, which is very beautiful and very, very like authentic, as you like this word, this concept. And I think it reflects, is very much reflected in this concept. So
Thank you.
thanks for sharing this. It's a great...
You're welcome. Now I'm interested to learn a bit more about you. As I mentioned, yes, we know each other. We got to know each other via Yippie, basically. We started a few projects together. We met in happiness cafes and so on. So I would be interested, what's your connection to positive psychology? How did you find your way? Where did you meet the topic first?
I had the feeling that this positive approach and attitude was somehow always in me, and I many times used it spontaneously. And I was fascinated when I found out in some articles that there is also some scientific background for that, because I felt sometimes that I'm a little bit like maybe naive, or that people think this is like this superficial optimism and so on, and the life is serious and difficult, and always like being positive and smiling is somehow unnatural. And I was thinking, yeah, maybe they are even right. I don't know. I still tend to do it. It worked for my life and for my close environment, but I was not like fully convinced that I can use it on a larger scale. And when I saw some articles about it, and then probably the first book of Seligman, I found it fascinating that there are other people who think similarly, and that this is becoming a scientific, let's say, topic or like part of science, which then I could like accommodate for myself. And then I enrolled in the course of positive psychology. I found it in internet somewhere, and I called Gabriele Zauberer, who we know, and then I made a full course of positive psychology, the practitioner advanced, and finally with Philip at this master level. Fascinated me,
Okay.
and I found it like so helpful for me, but also like to make it a like kind of official, way of approaching also other people, other relationships, trainings, coachings, everything. So it gave me this background of studies, of thought, of concepts that I could then use on a much larger scale in both my work and in my personal.
Mm-hmm. Do you maybe, I mean, the course is recommendable. What I loved, I also did it, and I searched a long time for it. So told you about this article, corporate happiness and so, and I thought in Austria, where can I learn it? And I found in Austria, nowhere I can learn it. I need to go to the US or make an online course, which is not the same. And I thought, oh, wow, just in the US. And then I found this one in Graz and Vienna. So basic, advanced, and master, which is very nice. And I remember we need the question will follow soon. I remember we had a project to do. We had to show the practitioner side of it. Do you maybe remember your topic? It's just if I may ask you,
Yeah, I
how to
think
apply.
at that time I was working on with Austrian doctors in
Okay.
the General Hospital of Vienna, so-called AKH, and then my topic was like, how can you involve positive psychology attitude in preventing burnout among the medical doctors. And the burnout, as you might know,
Mm-hmm.
is growing very much across different jobs and specialties. But when we talk about medicine, it is very, very high. And the medical doctors are on top of most rankings, this unfortunately negative rankings of the percentage of people who suffer or are on the edge of suffering from burnout, which in the States, it's like the average among the medical profession is around 50%, and some medical specialties go much higher, even like 60-70% of doctors
Mm-hmm.
declare
Mm-hmm.
being in burnout or on the edge of burnout. So in Europe, there is not that many studies as in the US, but also the numbers are like between 30 and 55, 60%. So it seemed a very, very relevant topic. And as a result of this project, I did this training in the urology department of
Mm-hmm.
AKH together with Gabriele. We did a training and some coaching
Mm-hmm.
approach. And this was a very, very interesting experience.
Wow. How did the doctors react? Were they open to it?
I must say that the first reactions were rather skeptical, actually. They didn't think that this is kind of maybe powerful enough
Mm-hmm.
or let's say deep enough that they might use some of it. But then
Mm-hmm.
thanks to the personal engagement of the chief of the clinic, who believes and also
Mm-hmm.
is a spontaneous like believer in positivity and positive psychology, he helped us convince also the others.
Mm-hmm. Interesting field actually. And you mentioned, by the way, doctors, and so your background is you from your education. Want
Yes, exactly.
to
So
tell a
I'm a
bit?
medical doctor. That was my first
Okay.
education, but then only after a very short career, about 2 years as a medical doctor, I jumped into business. It was a
Mm-hmm.
window of opportunity. I come originally from Poland. At that time, when you could join international companies, if you were like working hard and had the ability to speak languages and maybe some other strengths, you might make a quick career, which was also the case in my personal situation. So I went up the ladder in the company, both in Poland and then in Central Eastern Europe, finally landed in Austria, but being responsible for many other countries. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoyed this part of my life, and medicine was, because the companies were active in the field of medicine, pharmacy, it was like kind of helpful, this education,
Mm-hmm.
but I stopped working as a medical doctor for this period. But in the meantime, I also studied psychology. So this
Mm-hmm.
positive psychology was like a very nice, like crowning of this interest in human nature and how
Yeah.
the human brain, but also human motivation and satisfaction and finally happiness functions.
Mm-hmm.
I always had this interest, the willingness to understand the mechanism, both for
Mm-hmm.
my own use, because I think, let's be honest, everybody wants to be happy or have a good life.
Yeah.
And there was, like, now we start to talk about it more, but before it was not a very wide discussed issue, but I had always this interest. But then I noticed that you can also help other people, not necessarily only when they are depressed or anxious or have some, let's say, psychiatric disorder, which I learned about a lot, but also to like kind of normal people who are, let's say, okay, I'm okay, but this okay never sounded for me great, like
Mm,
a huge difference is this from -10 to 0 and from 0 to +10, the concept of Seligman, which I really love.
mm.
I found my mission in helping these people who are around 0 to bring them to the plus part of
Okay.
the scale. So to
Mm-hmm.
rather than concentrating on this -8 bringing to -1 or 0, I try to pick the people at 0 or +1 or maybe -1 and bring them to +5 or hopefully +9 or even higher. And I founded a mission
Mm-hmm.
that I tried to implement in my work, being a coach responsible for my employees and then also external clients, but also in my private life, if I have a chat with a family member that seems to be a little bit like discouraged or depressed or burned out or like unhappy or not feeling well, I try to help in a subtle way to showing this additional perspective and our responsibility or the possibility that we can influence our own life
Mm-hmm.
when we change our attitude. So this was for
Mm-hmm.
me the great discovery,
Okay.
and I'm very thankful to positive psychology that it gave this scientific background that allows people like us perform trainings, coachings, and we don't have to explain ourselves, or we have a solid background of science behind it, that it not only works, but it's like established approach which brings great results. So
Great
I'm very
results,
happy
yeah. And
that this
which
is the
speaks for quality. Quality is very important for me. So I would never talk about something that has no validation, or, and maybe this is also what one of my strengths. I do not make trainings or coachings about areas, let's say, or situations that I did not go through myself. Because the first part of my
first
career
we have to
or
believe in something and identify with
yes,
something, and
yes,
because we also put our own reputation behind these things, and
exactly.
that's why as I said, I found it so extremely important that that we have this background, and you can be even more convincing for the other people, because there will always be a bunch of skeptics who say, yeah, are you sure, and show me the numbers or show me the data or show me the studies. And
Mm,
now we know, yeah, no problem.
yeah,
How would you
yeah,
like to have it, or how many? Is 5 or 10 enough? Or you can, like you
exactly,
can. There's huge amount of proof and data and studies that support what we are teaching and preaching, and this is beautiful.
exactly. And I'm convinced that people love stories, yeah, love success stories, or love best practice. If you're on one level, then it's more like practice, yeah, where you share experience. You say you are not alone, and know how you're feeling. Maybe it was for sure different because it was my situation, but that's how I solve. That's one suggestion, and I think it should always be offer. Yeah,
Exactly.
you make the choice in your life, which again is one of your
Yeah, that's
concepts, I
the issue.
think.
I call it taking responsibility
Yes.
for life, or being the director of your life, manager of your life, or somebody once said that you should like be able to show a big picture, which would be like you are the painter and you painted this picture and you show it to others and said, look, this is my life, you know, like as an author. Yeah. So that's your life is your creation. Yeah. Of course, there are things that we don't have influence upon in our life. It's obvious, but there is huge amount of space that we do influence and can change and positively accommodate. And even this belief, this knowledge that it's possible gives us already so much hope. And then when we start doing it, it's a self-rewarding process. So I encourage everybody.
Yeah, like in positive psychology, it's a question where you look first. Yeah, it doesn't say you neglect the things where it doesn't work. Maybe look first at the things where it's shown, yeah, and proof that it works. Start there, it's much easier.
Absolutely.
You talked a lot about, I think one of your strengths might be helping others, consulting others, give advice, share knowledge, share. Do you look, Miro, at yourself? Do you apply positive psychology to yourself? In
I would
which
say I try
ways?
to do it all the time. So it's for for
For
me, it's
example.
obvious, and I really would have difficulty to accept a person, and I met such people many times who preach something but they don't look like they are using it for themselves. I would never like trust a person who will like tell me you should do this and then and be positive, and I see in their own attitude that they are not following their own advice.
Yeah,
Yeah?
okay.
There is this saying, do as the priest is saying, not as the priest is doing, but I don't really get it. I don't trust people who don't show with their own life that what they preach is working for them.
Yeah,
So I think
okay.
it's also part of this responsibility. So if I deal with positive psychology, I have to be a walking example of positive psychology somehow. Of course, we are only human, and we also have difficult moments, and it's not the responsibility doesn't mean that you have to be always every minute and second 100% possible, because it's positive, because it's impossible. But trying to be positive and trying to use the knowledge and the attitude is for me very obvious, and I try to do it every day. Maybe the thing that I believe is very mine in terms of this authenticity that we discussed is that I try to that's my assumption and my goal, and maybe I don't always make it, but I think many times I do, is that I try to make every encounter with another person a positive thing in their lives, you know, which of course also reflects on me. But I would like to say, like, okay, and I try to start with a smile or with a little compliment or with stating something positive about us, like even with most trivial things like the weather, or like how, let's say, if there is an article about Vienna being the most livable city in the world, I send it to all WhatsApp groups that I'm in, and I say, look, guys, let's appreciate how good we have, like having this privilege to live in the city. You know, like this,
Okay.
if there is something positive to be said, I try to say it and not keep it for myself. So that's my concept, to bring any positive idea that comes to my mind when I meet somebody. I try to use it to make our experience together a positive one. Starting, as I said, with a smile, with
Yeah,
a joke,
perfect.
with a compliment, with stating something positive, with asking people about some positive things. And then, in my experience, it works generally very well. There might be some exceptions, there might be some problems, and life is complex, but generally in my life, it works very well.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear, and was a good best practice. Start conversation with a smile. It even works on the telephone, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the trainings, I also like to say that the people are not aware that you can hear the smile on
Yeah.
the phone.
Yeah.
And then when you have like assistants or people who work with the clients, or whenever we contact other person, because we should not restrict these rules to only specific situations. It should be like every time, like if you pick up a phone, smile to the person, like even if they cannot see the smile physically, but they hear the smile, they hear your positive attitude. And it's not so many conversations on the phone that you will hear it immediately on the other side, but it doesn't mean that it's not that if the other person cannot do it, or maybe doesn't understand it, that I'm free of my responsibility, I can still influence it. And very often it's possible, maybe not always, but still you can move it in this direction of more positivity, even in the telephone talks. I think it's a very good that you bring, where
Okay.
most people think professionalism is about being like, only correct about the forms and data and facts or whatever. But I think to me, professional means also bringing trust, bringing this positivity, bringing a nice atmosphere that the other person wants to continue being in touch with me, and
Mm-hmm.
not that I only give the correct information back.
Mm-hmm.
It's a world of a difference for me, like
Yeah, it
taking
is.
the responsibility for the quality, for the niceness of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. It is, and we both know it, as we are educated that way, and we are convinced, and we know it works. It's a challenge in business. You will agree, it's a challenge in business, and that's why I love these gratitude things. More gratitude in companies. It is not. I always bring the example. Imagine one day without IT. One day, and that's a lot. Sometimes after 10 minutes, people freak out if the server crashes down. It is not given, that's my sentence, my standard sentence, that you reach someone at our IT help desk, that you can go there and say, "Bro, help me." People go there every day and make their job. Imagine one day without them. And I think that's a very illustrative example where people say, "Oh, okay, yes, I appreciate their work." And then I put another sentence on, if I might share. I say, are you aware that those people just hear complaints all the day? That's what they are here for. But basically, they don't get a thank you. They just
Exactly.
hear
And
something doesn't
the
work.
positive
Why do you need
reinforcement
so
is
long to
better.
solve my
More only
problem?
people expect that they
Yeah,
fix things and then it's okay, but
exactly. Yes,
very
and
good.
that's their
That's a
job,
very
and
good
that's
example.
okay.
Yeah.
But positive psychology, look at what else is there? These are human beings. Yeah. So maybe this helps
Absolutely.
a little bit
And
to
then
look
this
at things.
thankfulness, and if I may build on what you just said, I think it's a
Mm,
very good example. And then we usually think about thankfulness, gratefulness, about this, like we sit down in silence and we think about things in our life that we can be grateful. And it's fantastic, it's very good. But for me, I always would like to add this additional dimension of being in contact with other people. So when you beautifully said, yeah, we should be actually thankful for their work, yeah, because without it would be so difficult. But why don't we say it also and show our thankfulness, not only to us, to say, oh, I'm thankful that I live in Vienna, or I have a job, I'm thankful I have a partner. Okay, fantastic.
exactly.
But anytime I contact a person that does something of value, and it's
Mm-hmm.
in most cases, if we look carefully, we will find it. Like with this IT example, why don't we say, look, I think that your job is so important. It's so great that we have you in our company. Or without IT support, my life might be hard. I'm even happy that you are there, that in any case, I need something, I can call you, or you will support me. I'm sure this person will be so happy to hear it. And
Yes.
maybe as you do for yourself, then print out these emails for themselves and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful and so important. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I may give you maybe last example, because it's exactly in this category.
Mm-hmm.
I was studying Italian in Poland over 20 years ago for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was leaving, because I moved to another city, I stopped, but I gave a little card with like a thank you card. So I bought a beautiful card and said to the teacher, her name was Yolanda, I said, dear Yolanda, I really appreciated your lectures, the style of how you did our lessons. It was so interesting and so fun, and I really think you're a fantastic teacher. Thank you for that. Something like this. I don't remember exactly
Mm-hmm.
well. I did
Mm-hmm.
5-6 sentences with appreciation of the lessons. And then I came back to the town, I think it was like 3 years ago, and we only had these lessons 3 months, and she has like hundreds of students all the time because she teaches at the university and also does private courses. And then I met her in a restaurant, and then she was sitting at another table, but I liked her, and I said, well, okay, I will try. I mean, look, Mrs. Yolanda, you probably don't remember me, but I was 3 years not in the town. I just wanted to say hello. I am one of your students, Miro.
Students.
I said, Miro, how could I have not remembered you? The
Yeah.
card you wrote me is on my desk, and
Uh-huh.
every time I have a difficult moment, I go back and read this card.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
I was so surprised
Wow.
because I thought she would not even remember me, but
You see? You see?
no. So this
So
shows how important these little acts of kindness, in the
exactly.
sense that's the official name, so to say, in positive psychology. But
Yes.
I
Yes.
find this saying thank you, especially if we have a good, it should be authentic. If somebody is rude to you and so on, I mean, it shouldn't be done,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. But if many times we
Many
experience
occasions.
good or even great interactions, or like teachers or service or whatever, why
Mm-hmm.
don't we say it? Yeah. And if
Yeah.
we make this a little bit additional effort of like writing a few words, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like once, maybe the very last example, like it was in Austria, now in Vienna, and I had an interaction with a guy who was selling me skis, and he did
Mm-hmm.
some extra mile, and he offered me some free service, and he great advice, gave me some advice about things that I didn't know, even though I'm quite experienced, and I was really under this impression. So I wrote an email to his boss, to this Intersport, one of the Intersports in Vienna, praising his like, and then I asked him, no, I didn't ask him. Next time I came, he said, Miro, so the boss during the meeting of all employees took this email and read to everybody, and they said, you should work like Marcus, because, you know, look what kind of feedback he gets from the clients and so on.
Yeah.
And he was so grateful in his face. I remember his face like smiling like crazy, that, you know, that he was so happy about it. It was
Yeah.
probably the only one,
Yeah.
the first one in his life, hopefully not the last that he got. So
I
yeah,
got similar experience. It works. You leave a footprint in your surrounding, and it is noticed. Why it is noticed? Because it's a positive difference. A positive difference. Yeah. Complaints. One appreciation, and this is accomplishment. Yeah. It is looked at. It is talked about. So yeah, it has a positive effect. So let's come to an end, maybe, Miro. Do you have a final question for me, or shall we make a short summary for our audience? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, my feeling is that we actually gave a lot of examples, and it was very spontaneous
Okay.
talk. So thanks for that. Yeah, I have actually nothing to add. I'm very happy that I know you. And within our interaction of doing a few videos, I really had this chance to get to know you a little bit better. So I'm very grateful for that, and I hope we will have even more interactions
Yes.
and work on more projects together in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Miro. And maybe this is also an opportunity which we are open to new connections. Yippie is a huge network, so anyone who has interest, who wants to connect with us, feel free.
Very much welcome, guys. I hope to see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Miro. Thank you.
Bye-bye.